I did want to cover one more thing this week so that you will be aware of it because it is due next week, and that is the preliminary literature review. It's not a small assignment to be taken lightly. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to use the annotated bibliography or reference list that you have been creating as you've read research reports to make a preliminary literature review. This literature review should include the following items: APA formatted narrative writing, studies categorized logically, and you can refer to your APA document or APA book for making sure you write it like that. But it's academic writing. It's of the type that you have been reading, and that will help you, I think, just having read those articles that you've been reading. It's academic reading. It doesn't have things like hyperbole or colloquial terms. All right, and studies are categorized logically according to focus of studies and results. The writing flows logically, systematically, and 7 to 10 sources of information in this preliminary literature review. Later on in the semester, I think there's a 12 to 15 source. There's a requirement for the final lit review to have 12 to 15 sources, or 15 it says there. You have 15 cited sources. So what I'm going to do, and the reason why I have you do this is so that you get prepared for your final lit review, and also in order to do a study you need to know what's out there already. You have to justify your study or proposed study by reading the literature that's already out there and saying that maybe this hasn't been covered as well in the literature as it should have been, or that there are other opportunities or gaps in the literature for me to do this research study that I propose. So you always have to do your homework before you can propose a research study. So that's why I have this be the first assignment in the class, and then you'll just build upon it a little bit for the final literature review to come later in this class, or to be due later. Alright, so what I do is I like to give you feedback on this preliminary literature review, and in order for me to do that, you do need to submit it as a PDF file. That way it will allow me to write on it and submit that back to you and give you feedback on it. And I can kind of correct things or give you feedback and so forth. So, how will this be graded? Well, what I want you to do is to adequately present methods and results from each reference study. And again, I remember that you do not have to report about every study and share everything that happened in every study. But it's good to share the findings from the study, obviously, because that's kind of the major reason why you read a study. And maybe a little, about the research methods that they did, such as who were the participants, what instruments did they do, what procedure did they follow, and if these are relevant to the study. Now you can be pretty brief with these, though. I don't require you to write a whole page about every study. In fact, I don't want you to do that. But just figure out which ones are more relevant to what you're talking about in your literature review. All right, the next one is the literature review flows well with transitional and organizing sentences and paragraphs. This is how you'll be graded too. Does it flow well? Are there some organizing sentences that talk about, next we'll talk about studies that cover this item. Studies that discuss the academic benefits of going to bed early, if I'm going back to that example. So make sure you talk about what you're going to talk about, then transition from that to saying we have covered or we've discussed several studies have been completed by researchers talking about the academic benefits, but other studies have also talked about the social emotional benefits of going to bed early. And then you could talk about that. That's a transitional or organizing sentence or paragraph that talks about these things. Let's see, the literature review organizes reference studies logically, according to the focus of studies and results. So again, you're going to talk about that, or you're going to organize this well into your study. You're not just going to list out, study 1, they found this. Study 2, they found this unrelated thing. Study 3, they found this that's related to study 1 but not related to study 2. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Why not put study 1 and 3 next to each other? Because they're about the same thing. So make sure you organize it well. Proper APA formatting is used for all in-text citations, so pay attention to the learning modules, and you can go back to those, and you can also refer to your APA book to get those in-text citations correctly. The document overall is APA formatted. And next week we'll get a chance, by the way, to practice a little bit on APA formatting, and I'll give you some feedback on that before you submit your lit review. The document overall is APA formatted. There are 7 to 10 sources cited and referenced, and proper APA formatting is used for all items in the reference list. So that's what you're looking toward, going toward. There are a couple of examples of good, they didn't score perfect, but highly scoring preliminary literature reviews on the bottom under that assignment too, that you can click on and kind of read and get a feel for what these are about as well. But that's not due till next week. June 16th is the day that those are due. But I want you, of course, to know about this so that you can begin to organize it a little bit, some of these articles that you've been reading, and hopefully you've gotten a pretty good annotated bibliography by this point, and especially by next week, and you can organize those into studies or into a preliminary literature review. So hopefully that gets you started on that as well, but that's not due till June 16th, this preliminary literature review.